Well, welcome back to the Bald Head Teacher Pet Podcast, the second of two podcasts that we are doing on the theme of special educational needs. We had that very hastily put together podcast that Dr. John and I did around the white paper, which we hope you enjoyed. And this one is a little bit more of an exploration of Dr. John and I's careers and the kind of things that we've learned on our journey as leaders within schools with SEND provision in particular. A very personal reflection. So stay with us. If you want to look at previous episodes, then there's a fantastic episode with some our friends, Ukrainian teachers in Kiev, an inspirational episode with Jill and Kevin from An Hour for Others, as well as the aforementioned one that we did around the white paper. So it's great to have you with us. Now, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you very much indeed. We're freezing cold. But
Nothing's changed with the temperature then from last time, has it? You need to do something about this. You really do. Yeah, you deserve it, mate. You know, come on.
Oh, I've got some hot ale grey, and that's about it.
Okay. Well, we're coming up to spring. Life is going to get better for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with a bit of a personal reflection, and the reflection is on my own family. And you know this very, very well, that my late brother Richard, or we all know him as Richie. I'm just going to put a photo up for those of you watching of Richie here. Richie was severely disabled from birth, but my goodness me, he had a unbelievable impact on our life as a family, on me personally. Richie could never talk. He died at the age of 42. He could never talk. He struggled to walk. He walked when he was about 5 or 6, but he walked with a kind of deformity. He was never able to do anything for himself. He was incontinent. He did learn how to scoop the food into his mouth as an adult, which was a massive step forward for him and for the people caring for him, like my parents and us. But generally, he needed people to do things for him. But my goodness me, he brought joy to our lives. He was the glue in our family. Everything kind of revolved around him in a way. There was something saintly about him. And we miss him terribly. We really do, even though we are privileged to have had him for those 42 years. And I want to just put it to you that we've come a long way as a society, because when Richard was born in 1965, when he was a child growing up, kids were known as handicapped. They were overlooked. They were abused in some cases. They were marginalized. They were ridiculed. And it often went unchallenged. And the state system itself was not set up for any kind of inclusive practices. Basically, it was special school or bust. Now, my parents were very lucky. We were able to find a place for Richard, for him to go to every day, a school that then became an adult centre with accommodation facility. And it was run by this Irish lady, and she ran that place like it was a family. So we had the best of both worlds in that he went from a loving home to a loving home. It was like a home. It really was. It was an incredible place, a little bit like St. Vincent's. And I think when I look back now, and the reason I'm explaining this is because for me, it really exemplifies a wonderful relationship between home and state. And when we're considering the future of special educational needs and how we come to some sort of accommodation between home and state, I look back at that and I think, well, number one, we've come a massive way in society in the way in which we integrate and support children with special educational needs. But also, there is great examples out there. There are great examples out there of this wonderful unity between home and state. And you and I, in our careers, have been fortunate enough to have been working in state institutions, although I appreciate St. Vincent's slightly different, that I think replicated that family community atmosphere, which has to be healthy for those young people. So John, maybe what would be really good for people listening and watching is just explain to us a little bit about your time at St. Vincent's as principal, the kind of place it was, and some of the remarkable partnership work that you did to provide such great enrichment for those pupils with visual impairment.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. I was very lucky because I came to St. Vincent's looking for a building because I was doing project-based learning because I'd worked with the school, and their head teacher was retiring, and the laser beam hit me. This is where you're supposed to be, Johnny boy. And I believed that, and I applied and I got the headship. And the staff here at St. Vincent's, which we're in the building today, pretty unique, real holders of depths of knowledge, people who've been teaching visually impaired young people for 40 and 50 years. But you remember, in St. Vincent's is the world's first purpose-built school for the blind, world's first. And the things that were built into this building, it's nearly 200 years old. The Daughters of Charity had planned it. And when you bring innovators in it, they go, wow, these women were so ahead of their game. They've put things into this building that you wouldn't necessarily think of that were for the visually impaired and blind. So it's a unique building in a unique city, because the world's first school for the blind was Liverpool. There's something special about Liverpool and very special about St. Vincent's, and the depth of knowledge of the staff was quite unique. The biggest part of that was the independence, the mobility and independence, i.e. your white cane and your braille. You'd think that every country in the world has canes, of course. No, they don't. It's really very much the opposite. But St. Vincent's is a residential school. So the family angle that you're talking about, I saw that in action. Communities of visually impaired young people in residential space that were family. And the parents are part of that family. And the children all became family. And those networks are global, because the past pupils of St. Vincent's is a global movement. It's dysphoria, it is all over. But they link back to the school. So there's literally hundreds of years of experience and knowledge that connects into that family, as families are. So I agree with you. That type of space is quite unique. And I'd like to see more of it in truth. The specialist provision linking out, which is what we did together in a split placement.
Yeah. And then I was just going to what I'd really like you to do is to develop or explain to us what we did, something that we called reverse inclusion, didn't we?
Yeah.
And thinking about this whole debate of special educational needs and integrated provision and the rest of it, resource provision, what we did between our schools, just explain a little bit about that, what that meant, reverse inclusion.
Reverse inclusion. So reverse inclusion was originally started in the UK. Somebody in America picked it up. And it's about putting children with disabilities in a leading role, rather than always being behind, or, the poem, the poor blind boy, they lead. So a visually impaired child, and some of the wonderful things we did is children from your school came into St. Vincent's, where the children who were totally blind led them. It's a powerful thing in itself. You're led by a blind person to a project that you're taught something by them. You can see people's, how does that work? The gardens was one of the best examples of that. We're going to go potting. This is how we do it. And we're growing these veg on. But it was in key areas of creativity, music, art, dance, drama, sport, loads of ICT, technology, and the environment. Those 7 strands of creativity. Blind children, visually impaired children, leading sighted children. That's reverse inclusion. One of the finest examples, apart from our schools, was I was asked, could I do something with some really, really challenging, very hard to reach young people who had been excluded from at least 3 schools. I'm going, okay, we'll do something together. It was actually baking cakes and flower arranging. It really was. It really was. And instantly, those children met with ours, and our children said, come with me, I'm going to show you how to make cakes. And their minds were blown. In a day, their perception of visually impaired young people was changed, lifetime changing here. And they became very different people in a day. I'd have to tell you the feedback from that. That's the type of thing that you need to happen. It's just individual stories, little groups of community, and how that can spread outwards is quite a beautiful thing. Reverse inclusion. It's worth looking at. Hardly any research on it, you know.
Yeah, and and within the mainstream system, I know that is something we tried to do. When you have a base unit, it's called different things in different schools, but in All Saints it was 36 pupils with severe learning difficulties in a particular unit. And I think what we tried to do was to operate that model whereby the children who are in the mainstream classes would actually go to the classes within the base.
Yeah.
And again, it gave the children in the base a sense of, you're coming to my home, and I'm comfortable in my home, and I can therefore, those social skills, the communication skills, the opportunity to develop creativity with those peers, makes such a difference, doesn't it? I saw something on the news, you know, something on social media, I think it was, you know, that sometimes we fetishize this idea of, you know, inclusion within mainstream as being, as long as we have inclusion within it, then everything will be fine. But some of the best inclusion is in a special school.
And the other way,
it's the process and the culture and the quality of the staff that often makes a difference. We've got to be careful, haven't we, not to...
I can add to that a tad.
Go on.
If I may. I was reading many years ago, 1998, the European Union's job strategy, you know, and they were looking for a formula, and that's the word they used, a formula to network social cohesion with economic success. How are we going to do that? Reverse inclusion is one part of a formula that actually we developed between our schools, and it follows like this. Social capital. Social capital, when networks of neighborhoods work together, you get outcomes, and they're measurable. Lower crime, better health, increased employment. We need social capital. But if you net that human capital, in other words, children's strengths, which includes children with disabilities, their strengths, you know, that is networked into community. You add in creativity. This is the stuff of Ken Robinson, music, art and dance and drama and sport. You add in volunteerism. You get students, which is what we did, Hope University, Liverpool John Moores University, come into a project. In other words, you're doing a music project with visually impaired young people that's connecting the community. You're beginning to build quite a formula here. A particular type of volunteerism called service learning. Service learning, very understood in the Americas, less understood in the UK, well understood by the Catholic communities because it's just what we've done for centuries. Yeah. The end outcome is this. People come up with ideas in that super creative formula, research and develop those ideas that come from the children, the communities themselves. That's the sight box, if you remember.
Yeah, we'll come on to the side box in a minute. Ken Robinson, it wasn't his quote that creativity is ideas that have value. Sorry, ideas that lead to value, something like that.
Do schools crush creativity? Is his,
he's
his
very
TED talk one.
It's interesting. He's very few people talk about him at the moment, don't they? He's very much sidelined.
Yeah, should not
his
be.
theorized. Yeah,
pretty groovy stuff.
what I'd like to do, you mentioned Sidebox there, John. I'd like you to explain a little bit about the work that you've done overseas.
Yep.
Because I remember you've told me that whilst we understand visual impairment in our country,
Yep.
it's not the same across the world, is it?
No.
You've got some figures to describe the.
Some of them are horrendous figures. So we know that less than 1 in 10 children with visual impairments have any access at all to education. Less than 1 in 10. We know there's something like 150 million visually impaired, totally blind children around the world, and it's growing. In the UK, 84% of young people with visual impairment will struggle to find employment. 85%. And it's actually visual impairment. It's been going down for decades. It's actually going up. There is a massive need, and should we say market? I don't mean market, but there's an enormous need around the world. So I personally was blessed by going to China to see what they're doing there. Not a lot. I went to Indonesia to see what they were doing there. Interesting. And staff went all over the world. India, Pakistan, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and we looked at what there is. Precious little. So we need to get something out there. What is it? How about visually impaired young people in the UK? Teaching visually impaired young people overseas. This is the Rio papers. How can we connect tradition with innovation? So we came up with a medium that we could do that through: sports. So I used to be head of sports at a university. What is there?
Head of boxing.
Head of boxing. I tell you what, I in judo, side story, I was on the national squad and I thought it was great for the British judo, BJC. And anyway, I went to a club and there was a blind lad and a couple of ex-SAS lads, and I thought, I'll have these off, and he absolutely destroyed me and realised he should be on the national squad, not me. So I got taught something by a visually impaired judoka many years ago, and I still got the scars. Anyway, moving on. The Sightbox is a toolkit to access sports and education. It's a physical box with a ball, with a bell in it, with resources, bocce. It's a toolkit. You supply that to a child in the middle of nowhere. You want to see the outcomes. Now, you took one. You've seen one.
Took one to Sierra Leone.
You took one to Sierra Leone. Got them in Pakistan, Tanzania. Literally in the middle of the bush, a box arrives and you teach children how to play sports. They come together. At the minute, there's an addition to that, which is the Archdiocese, Alison Burrows, has taken up prescription sunglasses to Tanzania, which will be followed by for children with albinism, so they can see, but then it leads into teaching the Sightbox. What happens is those children start attracting other children who are blind, and they're teaching them how to play sports. Sports is a great cohesive thing. And then you start linking into education. Then you start linking in, I tell you what, let's have a sports match, eh? Who's making the pies? Okay, who's making it? It's actually about innovation and business development and jobs creation in the middle of nowhere. Technology-wise, we can reach out with very simple technology, and we've got a website all attached to that can teach our young people how to teach young people how to use the equipment and how to get educated. That's a powerful outcome. It's a powerful example of what happens when you give visually impaired young people opportunity to be creative. So I've got so many ideas that's coming back from overseas. What can we do next? The next step is that's funded by a global charity called Rotary. And the prescription sunglasses, if you go on there, it'd be good to put this up there, enrichment.org. We've got it on there. The Lions are funding the prescription sunglasses. They're a global charity. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the two came together? Tell you what, you do the glasses, starting in Tanzania, you do the Sightboxes. That would be cool. In other words, global charities all working together.
Have you got any data on how many kids have been affected by this? How many kids whose lives have been enriched by the?
But do you know what we have? We really focused in the Gambia, where, forgive me, just her name's gone out my head. Angela Williams is out there living there now. What she's been researching is the effect on formal lessons, maths and English, and on exams. She's facing it on that. the Archdiocese going out to Tanzania with the prescription glasses, they're focusing with the government on the same thing, what exams-based outcomes. But more important to me is the community cohesion outcomes, the inclusion outcomes. If you look at children with albinism, for instance, the witch doctors, they're hidden in communities. People think they're vampires, and they come out in the day with a pair of prescription glasses made in Liverpool. How good is that? Life-changing. Thought you were a vampire. No, I've just got albinism, lad. It's just a thing, a short of melon. The life-changing part of that is the inclusion and the acceptance, which leads then into training other visually impaired young people how to play sports. It's quite a picture. It's global, but we need people on board with that.
Yeah. I do think that across the world now, there is a much greater acceptance of disability, a much greater acceptance that educational provision needs to be improved. I haven't seen you since this, but I've been over to the UAE to inspect a couple of schools over there for their British Schools Overseas accreditation. And what I've noticed in the UAE in the years that I've been going there is such a big impact of government policy to change the perception of education for children with disability. Really massive change over 10 years, I would say. And it's brilliant to see, absolutely brilliant to see how many pupils, particularly with autism, severe learning difficulties, now included within mainstream schools, and the quality of the support for them improving rapidly, very much on par with what we're doing in the UK. So thanks to the work of yourself and people that you're working with, and many others, there is a real positive picture, isn't there?
I agree with you. Do you know, I actually spoke in Dubai at a global conference there, and I was on the sideshow because disabilities in the UAE. But you're right, they've actually woken up and said, well, actually, yeah, there is, and we need help. So I saw that change there, and the same in China. I agree with you. There is a wake up, and we do have children with disabilities that have been hidden away. It's a little bit like the UK was in the 50s, and they're waking up now. Hence, I actually believe Britain has got some of the best educational best practice that could be shared. We always think, education, but if you look at it as a powerful medium for helping people, Britain's got some good stuff. Why aren't they promoting us around the world? God knows.
Ireland. What's going on in Ireland, John? You're involved in Ireland as well.
Yeah, Vision Ireland is the key players in Ireland. So UK has the RNIB, the Royal National Institute for the Blind. Their equivalent in Dublin is Vision Ireland, and they're doing some powerful stuff. They've got the Wayfinding Centre, which is a physical building. It's got a plane in it, got a train in it, and you learn mobility and independence and how to travel around the world in a real plane. It's pretty cool. But they've got some technology, right? A lot of the platforms that you look at for somebody who's visually impaired, they don't talk to each other. People who are technology, they'll go, yeah, I get that. It's really interesting, but they've developed something. So if you look at the government and the likes of their disabilities ministers and all that, none of them actually complained. None of them even complained with the European Union directives. These have developed something. The visually impaired techno wonder people have designed something. We're sharing their stuff. So we're taking Irish development stuff and we're giving them our stuff. Liverpool and Ireland, it's
similar. And of course, because these things are getting a massive bad press in education, aren't they?
Yep.
And often, probably quite rightly in many cases, that for all the reasons we know, but for visually impaired children, have these been an absolute godsend?
Godsend. Yeah.
Tell me in what way.
There's, if I choose one area, loads of people who will complain and say about X. X is brilliant if you're visually impaired. You can access stuff on it. So for a platform that's really VI helpful, it's X. But the stuff that you can do on a mobile phone, loads of young people, visually impaired, I want to read comics. Do you know what? If you listen to what VI young people, I'd like to be included with comics and animations. Or these phones give access to all sorts of stuff that you can remember. Visually impaired children are just children who happen to be blind. Mobile technology. I was reading, they reckon that 10% of our current 10 and 11-year-olds are going to work in industries not yet invented. But they're not thinking about the stuff that ain't yet being invented for access tech for the visually impaired and hearing impaired. It's pretty well uncharted territories in many ways. It's a blank canvas. And that's where our universities should be putting research and development funds into. The next generation of employment that our young people globally can be the leaders in.
Yeah. John, you're doing a lot of work. You have done a lot of work for visually impaired children, but you are unbelievably restless. You never stop. There's ideas coming out here, left, right, and centre. Tell me a few of the other things that are going on at the moment in your world.
Yeah. It all focuses around that formula that I said: reverse inclusion, social capital, human capital, giving children with visual impairments and other disabilities opportunities to do things in the creative industries: music, art, dance, drama, sport, ICT, and the environment. Those key areas. And you develop the spin-off ideas that come from that. It all comes under enrichment. So we've got a new website, enrichment. We have one big lead project this year called the Slinks. Okay, this project will lead into other projects over the next 3 years. I'm working with the Albert Goubet Charitable Foundation on this. The Slinks are statues. They are formless statues, and they arrive in your school playground. And the children go, "What are they?" And I go, "No idea. You tell me what they are. So write me a story." So the Lord Mayor of Liverpool is backing this with the literacy program.
Yeah.
So children meet the Slinks. They write a story of what they think they are. And there's an animation that's been made into this, which sets the scene. What are they? It's a fantastic anime with a work pack around it. The work pack leads you into what's the message of the Slinks. This year, the message of the Slinks is VI awareness, and VI awareness in Tanzania. And the VI awareness has got a Catholic social action behind it. Oh, we've learned about children with visual impairment. Well, what are we going to do? We've worked with the Lions. Alison Burrows from the Archdiocese flies out in 2 weeks to take 48 children, pair of prescription sunglasses, and then comes the sight box. So the Slinks is this year's major connective story. We're inviting all the Catholic schools in the Archdiocese if they want to do the project. And we're asking the Catholic independent schools if they want to do the project. Next year, it's going to be the John Hulley statue. We're linking all sorts of Liverpool-based teaching and learning and history to a global picture. But working with Ireland as well. It's pretty cool. That's a snapshot.
So you're not sat at home with your feet up and cup of tea in hand.
No,
Imagine I could quite do with that at the moment.
cup of tea.
Somewhere where there's warm. Anyway, listen, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna thank you massively, and we're gonna do lots of playing out, aren't we, over the next few months?
Yeah.
And because we've got things that kind of cross over, and you'll come back, I hope, onto the podcast.
Well, my thanks is to you, because, we've got similar strengths, but we've got different strengths. And the lovely thing about you and I is we share them to help other people. And I love you for it, brother.
Cheers, JP. So yeah, what I'm going to do, John, I'm just going to sum up a little bit, because we spent part one on this white paper, and we did that, and we've explored, hopefully, particularly the kind of work you're doing there and your expertise with visual impairment. But I just want to bring it back, and I want to end on a positive here and something constructive. So I'm going to suggest now 3 things that I think we need to look at to effect positive change in relation to this whole picture of special educational needs. One is structural, one's cultural, and one is financial. So here I'm going to go. Okay, so the structural one is this thing about early intervention. I think we need to bring back children's centres or family centres or community centres. I don't care what we call them. We need to have them, and we need to have them based in our communities, and they're around groups of neighbouring schools, possibly including community groups. And they need to be provided with significant resources, staffed by leaders with a record of excellent early education, because from there, multi-agency work can support training and development of staff, support parents, manage expectations, assess need early, and we can therefore find the right provision, for example, for children with visual impairment, for children with autism, for children with ADHD, whatever. And it can be done properly, and it can be done systematically and carefully. For the majority of the children, careful integration into the mainstream, I would expect to be the norm. So that's my first one. The second one is cultural, and this is going to be more difficult to bring about, but I think at these centres, whatever we call them, that's the right place to start, because I've found, I don't know whether you found this, that I've found that the quality of relationships between school and home, between parents, between multi-agency groups and so on, can be done where people can meet, where people can get together, where they can meet each other, they can get to know each other. You've got to get trust first. You get trust between those, all the different people involved, and that language of battles and fights, it suddenly dissipates and falls away. Now, I worry about the fact that you're doing a lot in Liverpool, but there are very few community locations where people can do that. And if we can set up these centres attached to schools or next to schools, that's a great starting point. We need to reimagine this meeting place, this Aristotelian concept of the agora. Because if we meet each other a lot more, if we understand the burdens that we all carry, we'll be kinder to each other. We'll be more sympathetic to each other. We're more empathetic to each other. And we'll go from seeing other people as, instead of being competitors, we'll see them as being neighbours. And children love that as well. Children just would thrive in that environment. So that's my cultural change. And then thirdly, my financial change is that we have to phase out the individual parcels of money. And I know that's going to be very contentious and that it's not popular with parents, but we're going to have to do it. It's the right course of action. And the government needs to take that bold step, and they need to hand over the funds to collectives, to trusts, to collaboratives, to clusters, whatever you want to call them, whatever the local setup is in that community. And then the governance arrangements need to be set so that parents have got a really strong voice within those collectives. And I'm hoping that kind of representation would help to assuage the dissatisfaction that maybe parents might feel with that change. But there's got to be, we can't afford it anymore. If there is cross-party agreement on that, if we can make it a 10, 15-year plan so that it survives governments and it's not short-term fixes, then there's a chance that it might work. Because parents, staff, everybody involved in education at the moment, we need that exceptional leadership. We really do. What do you think?
Do you know what? I remember when I was a kid and Blue Peter, Tracy Island. Here's one we made earlier. The only way we're going to do it is by showing the government, here's it in action. Yeah. And you know what? Liverpool is the place to do that. It really is, because we are. And we're going to take what we're doing, show them that and say, that's what you need to fund. We'll help you.
Right. Well, thank you, John. And thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, everybody. And we'll look forward to the next podcast. In the meantime, subscribe. Go to the www.baldheadteacher.co.uk for all the blogs and all the information. The YouTube channel. Please put in a little bit of a response, subscribe, and share with friends and family. See you soon. Bye-bye.